I, 32, female, am a long-term lurker on this side of Reddit, but I never thought I'd be in a situation to post something of my own. I have recently found myself in a very difficult situation that I need to share with someone, and the people that I trusted the most in the world have put me in this situation in the first place, so I don't really have anyone to talk to. I found out that my stepsister slept with my husband and is now carrying his child. What's worse, she did it all because she was desperate for money and thought she could blackmail him into giving up our new apartment, which she thought she had earned. It all started a few months ago when my stepsister and I, who I will call Jane, 28 female, came to stay with us for a while. She had just broken up with her boyfriend and was looking for a place to stay. They had been together for a very long time, and he cheated on her and kicked her out of their apartment. So Jane was obviously devastated. I felt incredibly bad for her, so when she asked me if she could crash at our place for a while until she gets her life together, I happily said yes. I spoke to my husband and we both thought it would be a good idea to let her stay with us for a bit. Jane's dad and my mom got married when I was in middle school and she was in elementary, so we grew up together. I loved her, and we have always been very close, so the betrayal stings more than I can even describe. At first, things were going well. Since Jane and I had always been close, it was nice to have her around. She even helped around the apartment and was a great guest overall. My husband and I had recently bought an apartment that we planned on turning into an Airbnb, but we decided that we'd let Jane stay there for a while after the remodeling was done and do the Airbnb thing later. However, as the weeks went on, I started to notice that something was off. My husband, who I will call Tim, seemed to be spending more and more time with Jane, and they were getting awfully close. To make matters worse, I work a 9 to 5 and Tim works from home, so they were literally spending all their time together, and most of it was in my absence. Things were subtle at first. They just had an awful lot of inside jokes and stuff. And I told myself I was just being paranoid and suspicious for no reason. But after Jane had been living at our place for a month or two, I just couldn't ignore it anymore. By that time, the remodeling was done and Jane moved into the other apartment. But she used to come over practically every single day and was very friendly with Tim. I wanted to talk to him about this many times, but I felt guilty and ashamed. Around 4 months into this living situation, my husband and I planned a little weekend camping getaway. I was really excited and we got all the bookings done. Unfortunately, I caught the flu at work that week and was too sick to even get out of bed. Both my husband and Jane seemed to be concerned at first, but as I began to recover, my husband started saying stuff like it was such a waste to let all the bookings go to waste. He was trying to guilt me into saying he should go on the trip with Jane. The realization made me sick to my stomach. I was just disgusted and eventually gave in and told them exactly what they wanted to hear. After a pathetic show of protesting against leaving me alone, they both reluctantly agreed to go. Once they left, I couldn't take it anymore and decided to get to the bottom of the matter. They left on a Friday, and by Saturday evening, my health was a little better. I decided to do something that might come off as a little crazy, but I was just done with everything at that point. I set up little hidden cameras in both our bedrooms and the guest bedroom and prepared myself for the things I would probably see once they returned. Well, they came back on Sunday and Jane slept over at our place because it was quite late. The next day, I was well enough to go to work. I got in my car and pretended to go as usual, but I parked the car in a nearby Walmart parking lot and got on my phone to see the footage. It was being directly live streamed through this app on my phone. At that point, I was a complete wreck. I knew that I would almost certainly be seeing something awful. My husband was still sleeping by the time I left, and so was Jane. At around 10, I saw Jane entering my bedroom, and my heart just sank. She woke my husband up, and you guys can probably imagine what happened next. I had a complete breakdown in the car. I mean, at that point, I practically knew what was going on for sure. But I guess some part of my heart was desperately hoping that I was just being crazy and nothing was going on. My whole life had fallen apart right in front of my eyes, and I had no idea what to do. My husband and I had been married for 8 years, and after all this time, he decided to disrespect me in the worst possible way at our own home. And the fact that I had let that woman into our home myself and continued to let her stay there, despite my suspicions, just made me feel like the biggest idiot on earth. I was disgusted and humiliated. I knew that my marriage was over. I immediately called an old coworker of mine whose husband is a lawyer. I briefly told her what had happened, and she gave me her husband's contact info. I called him and we set up a meeting. I felt a little better after that and prepared myself to confront Jane and my husband. I reached home around afternoon. Jane opened the door for me. She was surprised and asked if I got off work early. I ignored her and went straight to my husband's home office. I think one look at my face and he knew that their game was up. I told him I know, and his face turned white. He said he could explain, and I told him not to give me that BS because I've seen enough. At that point, Jane had come there as well. I must have screamed at them for at least 15 minutes straight, calling Jane every name I possibly could think of. The whole thing was ugly. Jane also got really mad and dared to tell me that my husband doesn't love me anymore and that she was glad I found out because now they could finally be together and start a family in their home. I was so shocked I could hardly keep standing. I looked at my husband, and he also looked like he was going to pass out any second. I asked her what the hell Jane was talking about, and he quietly said that she was pregnant. I couldn't stand there any longer and ran out of the apartment. I checked into a hotel. I literally had none of my things. Later that night, Jane texted me and said Tim would be moving out to their apartment in a day or two. Now, this is where I finally got my little victory. The apartment she was so proudly calling hers is obviously the one my husband and I bought. The thing is, though, the house is under my name. All the payments have been from my credit cards. I own everything because my husband's credit score isn't really good. So here's the thing. My divorce is already initiated. My lawyer will get back to me in a few days, and I own both the apartments. Jane doesn't have a place of her own, and neither does my soon-to-be ex-husband. The moment my divorce papers are ready, I'm kicking both of them out. I am in my home now. I hate everything about it. I want to leave. I plan to rent this place out and move into the other apartment after thoroughly deep cleaning it. Ugh. For now, I can't wait to see how Jane will react when she has no place to go with her new boyfriend and baby. Update 1. So many of you have validated my little revenge plan. Thank you. Honestly, I was kind of doubting if I should let this thing go and be the bigger person or whatever, but now I'm sure that I want the revenge. I've also spoken to my lawyer, and he said he'll be serving the divorce papers to Tim tomorrow, and the moment that's done, I'll be calling him up and kicking them both out. If he pulls any kind of stunt, I'll threaten to send the police to kick them out for trespassing. I promise that I'll update you guys about what happens. Update 2. Divorce papers have been served, you guys. He called me up to say I could have at least waited, said in a very scornful way, and I told him he better sign it before I make things very difficult, and like the a-hole he is, he told me to do my best. Definitely a poor choice on his behalf, but all the better for me. I told him that in that case, he and his girlfriend should get the hell out of my apartment then. He was silent for a bit before saying it was his apartment as well. I told him the law wouldn't agree. Before he could say anything else, I hung up on him. He has been texting and calling me constantly since then, but I've decided to ignore him and relax. Update 3. I really thought that would be my last update, but I gotta tell you guys about this. Guess who showed up at my door last night begging to give the relationship another chance and crying about making a huge mistake? And guess who shut the door in his face? I guess it finally sunk in that he doesn't really have much without me. That certainly didn't take very long. As for Jane, I don't know what's up with her. Tim might just go back to her now that I've told him nothing will ever happen between us again. I wish them all the misery in their life together. First of all, I'm so sorry for what happened to you, OP. Betrayals sting more when it comes from family, and the fact that you were so kind to Jane, and this is how she chose to repay you, is just disgusting. I hope they resent each other forever for basically ruining their own lives. We love to see a-holes paying the price for their actions. It's amazing how well you're handling this terrible thing, sending you strength and a big pat on the back. Good luck with the move, and I hope you never have to see those people again. Next story. Hi, sorry, I usually just read through this sub, but this happened, and I've been wondering if I'm the a-hole, so I decided to ask. So basically, I'm 24, NB. My boyfriend, fiance, is 25, male. My sister is 26, female. And I don't know the ages of most of her friends, but roughly the same age. Now, my sister and my boyfriend, fiance, do not get along well. I don't really know what happened. I think my sister is just upset because she has issues with commitment and she dated him at their high school. I went to a different high school and then cheated on him and is upset he broke up with her. I met him in college and didn't know it was him. Now, what happened is last week it was my sister's birthday. She was always into stupidly lavish things. We both are. So she threw a big birthday party at a venue in the forest. Me and my boyfriend, fiance, were both invited. We've been dating for a few years and he's never been invited to one of my sister's birthday parties before, so we were both thrilled at this development. At the party, my sister was busy opening all her presents, then eating cake, both of which we were there for. Afterward, my sister started talking to her friends, and the guests started to explore the area. It was stunning. Me and my boyfriend were a little bit away when we found a little clearing. We were still pretty close to the venue, but I think it was pretty private. My boyfriend thought so too. He got down on one knee and proposed. He didn't have a ring. He had one at home, though. But he had woven a ring out of grass while we were walking. We are both very fidgety, so he put that on my finger after I said yes. Apparently, it wasn't as private as I thought because when we got back to the venue after taking a selfie and scheduling a post for a few hours after the party was scheduled to end, I was bombarded by a shower of congratulations. Turns out my sister's friend, Lisa, saw my boyfriend propose and then came back to the venue and told everyone. I figured that I could show them the ring and tell the story and then move on from that and back to my sister. While I was being congratulated, another girl, one of my sister's best friends, came up to me, asked to see the ring, and told me that, wow, he even skimped out on a ring. He couldn't plan his own proposal or get you a nice ring. I was upset because I wasn't even planning to tell anyone. If someone noticed the ring, I would tell them, but I wasn't going to announce it to the world or do it in public where everyone can see us. We left immediately afterwards, and my entire family has been blowing up my phone, calling me an attention-seeking B-word, and that I shouldn't have done that to my sister. I'm worried I might be an a-hole because it was my sister's birthday, and if I said no, maybe she wouldn't have been upset about my boyfriend proposing. Update. Hey guys, I'll probably do a more complete update later, but scrolling through your posts kind of awakened something in me. I've never been good with people, undiagnosed autism, so it didn't occur to me that my boyfriend might have been lying about my sister. I told him that I was going to be thinking about some things, gave him back the ring, and called a friend we both knew in high school. He said that apparently my boyfriend was lying. See, I was in a student exchange program when they were dating, so I never knew what happened, since the drama died down before I got back. But apparently my boyfriend not only lied about my sister cheating, but also lied about why they stopped getting along. Yeah, apparently not only did my sister not cheat, the reason they broke up is because my boyfriend did. Cheat, that is, with his brother. At least that's what the rumors that went around said. Neither of them shared, and then tried to sleep with my sister, which is why she got cold around him again. She didn't tell me because she didn't want to ruin my happiness. So, as far as I can tell, he might have proposed to me as a twisted revenge scheme of some kind. I'm thinking about it all over. I will make another update post later when I've figured all the pieces out. YTA, but mostly your fiance is, especially since he dated your sister in high school. Even though we don't know how serious, maybe her first, it was her birthday party. And also, sorry, but you say you don't know why they don't get along? Because they have a past together of them dating, and how I understood it, her cheating on him? YTA. Next story. I, 29, female, have been no contact with my mother, 70, female, for 5 years now. Her and my father, 71, male, are still together. I'm getting married this summer. It is a small wedding, basically an elopement with an after-party picnic. No wedding dress, no cake, just a pavilion in the park. And we live in a state where we can do a Quaker self-uniting wedding, meaning no one needs to officiate. The party will be made up of my fiance's extended family and my friends. My brother, 26, male, is invited. The rest of my extended family is not, as none of them have spoken to me since I moved out of my parents' house at 22. My brother will get invited to things, but I'm not. I'm just basically not part of the family. Not disliked or anything, just people forget about me. I don't anticipate any of them will care at all about not being invited. To sum it up, my mother is a POS and possibly, current drug addict. She has been in therapy for years, but nothing has helped. She is incredibly toxic, and I still have nightmares to this day about being trapped at home with her. My only specification for a college was that it was hours away, so she couldn't visit. If she showed up to my wedding, it would not only ruin the day because of the traumatic response I would have in reaction to seeing her, but because there's no way she wouldn't cause a scene. She has been kicked out of multiple weddings before. That aside, I love my dad. Other than sticking with my mom, he's a great guy. He's the one who raised my brother and I. Cooking, cleaning, taking us to sports practice, helping with homework, keeping a roof over our head, etc. I told my dad he was invited to the wedding, and he asked if my mother could watch from the car with binoculars. I said absolutely not. He said I was making his life way more difficult by not inviting my mother. He also regularly says that I make his life more difficult by refusing to talk to her. We text semi-regularly, and he stops over to visit a few times a year. Her number is blocked. My brother understands why I am no contact with my mother, but thinks I'm a little dramatic about it. However, because of his gender, our experiences growing up were very different. AITA for inviting my father but not my mother. I understand that I'm telling him to choose between his daughter and his wife for one day. But also, I'm emotionally prepared for him to not choose me. He's not a man who likes conflict, so I know I'm putting him in a hard spot. But also, I want to give him the chance to be there rather than not inviting either parent. Edit. Thank you for all your replies. I'm working to read through them all. I believe I'm going to tell my father he isn't invited to the party and just send him some pictures. I realized that when I brought it up to him, he didn't even express a desire to go or say he was happy to see my big day. He just immediately went on to say how my mother wants to come. Also, I absolutely put a plan in place for if my mother shows up uninvited as soon as we book the venue. NTA, your wedding, your rules. You say your brother thinks perhaps you're being dramatic, but without knowing the full background, we can't make a judgment on that. But that is almost irrelevant. You don't want her there, so don't invite her. You're NTA, and you're not the one making your dad's life difficult. He is at least partially responsible for allowing your mother to treat you badly. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.